Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Trigger Time. We're glad you folks could tune in, whether you're watching on YouTube or catching us on one of your podcast channels. We appreciate you listening in. So I'm Cece.
And I'm Deuce.
And here we go on some product detail today on Trigger Time. We're going to talk a little bit about ammunition. And Deuce has got some rundowns for you to kind of help clear up some of the misunderstandings or the lack of knowledge on certain aspects that are on the boxes and some of the details about the ammo. So what do you got for us today?
Well, I just we were talking about it, and I think one of the things that's probably lesser understood in the shooting world is how to interpret the labels on ammo boxes when people are looking to do, especially when they're looking to do something specific.
Sure.
Basically, guys, what I want to kind of get past today is what a shot shell is not just a shot shell.
Okay.
So give it a little bit of education today. And again, I'm not going to get super deep into a lot of this stuff, but I want to give people some knowledge so when they're shopping for a certain type of shell for a certain application, they can go into it and get exactly what they want, or at least close to it in this market.
Sure.
So we'll start with shot shells. I'm going to be heavy on the shot shells today. We'll touch a little bit on center fire ammunition. But for example, 12-gauge shotgun, one of the things that a lot of people's shooting experiences, I've taken grandpa's shotgun in the backyard and getting smacked on your butt.
Sure.
Well, those kind of first-time shooting experiences can be avoided with the right load selection.
Right.
So right out the gate, we'll talk about 12-gauge. And guys, it's a 12-gauge shotgun. It's going to be brutal. Well, not necessarily. I'll start off with one of the offerings. These are Winchester AA's. These are actually low noise, low recoil. Okay, and what makes that low noise, low recoil? When you look at the box, they're 2 3/4 inch, which we'll get into a little bit more as a talk here, but velocity and weight of shot charge. Those are two things that have a huge bearing on shot shells. And for example, more of a standard target load or sport load would be these Federal Top guns. Okay, so we have 1,145 feet per second, 2 3/4 inch shell, 1.125 ounces, very standard. That's a very standard target load. Again, 1145. The Winchester low recoil, you've got 980 feet per second, so considerably less velocity-wise, and only 26 grams of shot versus 1.125 ounces.
And that's for folks that are completely brand new to that's talking about the amount of shot.
That's the amount of shot.
Leave the barrel.
Yes, that's the amount of shot. And then pellet size, we can talk about that for an hour. But most of your sport type loads are going to be somewhere between a 7.5 and a 9 shot size. And shot size is the size of the pellet. Okay. So these, this Winchester low noise, low recoil and this Federal Top gun, those would both be decent choices for sporting clays, shooting hand thrown birds in the backyard, that kind of thing. But I will note, for example, on these AA's, because of their low velocity and their low shot charge, they're not going to run in a semi-automatic shotgun. And actually, Winchester tells you that right here on the bottom of their box. Don't put these through semi-autos. They'll fire and function safely, but they'll fire safely, but they will not function the gun as it's intended. Right. And so when you're shooting a semi-auto, especially, it's best to stick with 1.125 ounces. If you're shooting skeet, the preferred shot size is 9, for example. And same thing when you're looking at 20 gauge, guys. And a lot of people don't realize too that on these estates here, a standard shot charge for 20 gauge, for example, is 7/8 of an ounce versus a 12 gauge, which is 1.125 ounces. And you'll notice this 20 gauge is yellow. That's actually federally mandated. Okay. That 20 gauge shot shells are yellow cased because when the transition from paper to plastic hulls happened, 75, 80 years ago, what it was that 20 gauge shells will fit into the chamber and slip down into a 12 gauge very easily. There's actually a lot of really bad accidents that happen as a result of that. So when you see, why are they yellow? Well, that's why. So you know what they are instantly.
Now, when you talk about the shot size there, again, just for layman terms purposes, explain the range of shot size and big to small or small to big.
Yeah, it's a little odd because let's see I picked out some pheasant loads here. For example, these are 6. Okay, so the higher the number, the smaller the pellet. Okay, so that's kind of goes against the grain a little bit. And the lower the number, the larger the pellet. Like, for example, double-aught buck. Okay, that's going to be a large pellet. And then you get into waterfowl shot sizes, your T's and your
BBs.
And, for example, right here, I've got, here's some 3.5-inch steel, and these are 2. Okay, and again, that's 3.5-inch. That's for a 3.5-inch chambered gun, guys. And why it's important to know the chamber your gun, especially if you're running a little bit older shotgun. While a 3-inch shell may chamber in a 2 3/4-inch gun, it is not safe to fire because there's not the room for when that shell opens up. That creates more head pressure, and you have a safety issue there. That's why you want to stick with appropriate ammo for what the gun's chambered for lengthwise.
And most guns will have it stamped, especially modern guns. All modern guns will, but most of the older guns, unless you go way back,
right,
they'll have stamped usually on the barrel, midway away from the receiver, and it'll tell you, who the manufacturer was, and then it'll tell you what it's chambered for, and they'll tell you the gauge.
Yes.
Make sure you pay particular attention to that. And a lot of the modern shotguns, Benelli's a great example. We carry a lot of Benelli's. They'll chamber everything, the 2 3/4, the 3-inch, and the 3.5. Yeah. But you need to know that because some of them only do 2 out of the 3, and then some of them, the more gentlemanly guns, then they'll just do the 2 3/4.
Yep. Another thing I want to point out, because you'll hear a lot of old timers talk about high brass versus low brass.
Okay.
That's a high brass shell.
Yeah.
Well, in most cases, there are some exceptions, but in most cases, your high brass shells are going to be your field hunting defense style loads. Higher brass, more chamber support for a higher velocity shell. For example, these low base Winchesters are under 1,000 feet per second, whereas these Remingtons are 1,330 feet per second. That's a significant performance, and it's pushing 1.25 ounces of shot. So, when you see a high brass shell like that, generally that is for sporting, hunting purposes, defense purposes, waterfowl, stuff like that. So, when you hear guys talk about high brass, low brass, and then on the, to get into center fire a little bit, when you're looking at bullet weights, for example. I've got a box of 9mm out here, a box of Aguila, pretty standard, I guess what you would call practice full metal jacket type ammo. 115 grain, going right around 1,250 feet per second. Very standard in a 9mm. And then on the other side of the coin, I've got these Hornady subsonics here, and these are under 1,000 feet per second, right around 900 feet per second, but it's a heavier bullet. Now, you have to go heavier bullet in the 9mm to work the action reliably on the pistol to create the pressure to do that. But, these are going to be less recoil than the higher velocity 115s. So that's not always the case. 38 Special, for example, if you take 105 grain cowboy load versus 158 grain ball load, you're going to be a lot less recoil. So it has to be subsonic when you're looking at your center fire handgun ammo, or a specific game built purpose round with a lighter weight bullet to get less recoil.
And why would somebody want the subsonic?
Well, for example, if you're shooting a suppressed firearm, you take full advantage of that suppressed capabilities when you're shooting subsonic. And subsonic 9mm particularly has become very popular in the games, USPSA. Some games that they do run in. Now, to get into the power factor, you have to run a higher velocity on that kind of thing, depending on what game you're playing. But a lot of guys like a little bit lower recoil for faster shot recovery times. So,
great.
But yeah, so hopefully you guys were able to glean some information when you're looking at shot shells and stuff, so you don't just, especially if you're introducing somebody into the game.
Sure.
And they're a little hard to find right now. We have some in stock, but these Winchester low recoil, especially out of an over and under or a pump, are a great choice because these recoil less than most standard 20 gauges do.
Right.
So if you have somebody you want to introduce, look for a lower shot weight, lower velocity shell to get them into, because they'll be a lot happier at the end of the day, and their shoulder's going to be a lot less black and blue.
Right. And we got several cases a couple of weeks ago, and I think we're down to the last case or two that quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very sought after. Great shells. That's what I shoot.
Yep.
Just transitioned over into them, and well, my whole family shoots those.
Yeah.
We really like them. So great. Well, we'll talk more, in future episodes. We'll get into shotgun slugs and such here in the future, and we'll probably wait till we get a little closer to hunting season, and then we'll cover a lot of hunting rounds. But then we'll kind of touch back to this subject, and then start talking about slugs in general, and then rifle rounds and such. So look forward to that here as we get probably into August. We'll start doing those.
Yeah.
And get everybody tuned up and ready for the hunting seasons, which I'm excited about already. So, and we're only in July. So, a couple other things that I'll talk about here real quick. New lineup for us, but it's a company that's been around for a lot of years, is the Zuess Optics. Some people say Zuess, I say Zuess, and my rep says Zuess. So he works for them, so we'll go with that. Fantastic optics out of Germany. They have a very extensive line of both hunting scopes, practical target shooting scopes, and then long distance or tactical scopes. I just grabbed two of the offerings this morning out of the case just to kind of show a little reference. These are the Conquest series. Go to their website and kind of read about the Conquest series. I think for the dollar value of these scopes, they are going to run you around $1,000, give or take, depending on what features you're looking for. But the glass is second to none, folks. I'm very excited for this line to be in here. I've had a pair of their binoculars for going on 35 years, and they were used when I got them. And so they're probably 50, 55 years old. They're absolutely exceptional pieces of glass, especially low light. In fact, I use them to compare all new product offerings in the store. When reps from different manufacturers bring in scopes or binoculars, I say, hey, leave me your best scopes, and I will run some tests in the early morning or late evening out on our long range. And once I run my tests, then you can have your scopes back, and we'll either order some or we won't. And I test them against the Zuess binoculars is what I'm looking for as far as clarity, low light, definition of even just foliage at 300 yards and closer distance, just to see how crisp and clear. And I can tell you the Zuess optic glass, which they are at the top of the food chain with the glass and the way that they've ionized the gas in here, that you get such a crystal clear picture out of it. Also, both of their new Conquests that I'm showing here, they have lighted radicals in there with 10 different settings on them. One of them has basically just a single dot or a single point dot. Leopold made that famous, called the Fire Dot, which is another fantastic scope I'll talk about some other time. But then we're also dealing with 30 millimeter tubes on them to allow more light together than just a standard 1 inch. And then we have them in several different powers. These happen to be 4x16s, which is a great variable on the scopes. And then very, very simple free-flowing scales to set your zoom on, parallax adjustments, closed caps and open caps. So shooter's choice, if they're target shooting, they're going to want open caps for adjustment. If they're hunting, most of the time they're going to want a closed cap so they can't accidentally adjust it while going through the woods. So just an offering. I wanted to just kind of touch base with that real quick, let folks know that we have them here in the store. And if you're not local, check in with your local gun shops, try to find them just to take a look through them. If you look through them once, you'll understand the clarity difference in them, even at close range. Where you normally get a lot of distortion with scopes when you look, say, inside the building. I can read very small print at the other end of the building with these. I just did it a couple hours ago, just messing around with them a little bit, and read a very small sign we have in the hallway with them. So very good glass.
And not being an optics expert, what I do know is that the big difference between quality glass and glass that's just okay is when you get in adverse conditions. Anything can look decent on a bright and sunny day.
Absolutely.
That's when you separate the good glass from the bad glass, is when it's foggy, wet, cold,
absolutely,
low light. I mean,
Yep.
I know you can add 15 minutes on both ends of the day. A lot of cases.
absolutely,
with the quality glass.
And for the sake of time, I won't run it long, but you bring that up. It brings up a very good point. We had a manufacturer come in and offer us some scopes. They're a well-known manufacturer. I won't mention them because it's just not fair to do that at this point. It's been a while ago. Maybe things have changed with them, but I took one of their scopes. They actually gave me one of their scopes for me to personally use, and I put it on my rifle. I thought it was pretty good glass, not top of the food chain glass, but good glass. Went out deer hunting that year and had a very, very nice buck that was early in the morning. It was legal shooting light, but the fog had just started to lift. It was a little bit rainy. The buck came in at about 120 yards, was standing by some trees. And normally with my Leopold or Zuess optics, I could take that shot in a split second, just almost point shoot or snap shoot it. And with that optic, as I pulled it up, there was enough graininess in there. I just didn't feel 100% confident, so I did not take the shot. Half hour later, I let the deer go. I thought it's early in the day. He'll come back around. I'll wait till the sun's up a little bit more and get a better shot. Half hour later, he had wandered over on the neighbor's property. They shot him and didn't mortally wound him, and no one ever found him. So I was very disappointed with that. So I take optics very, very serious. I brought that back, took the scope off of it. We discontinued that entire line of scopes, their entire brand. We discontinued the entire brand in the store. That was a bad enough experience that I don't want another hunter experiencing that. So anyway, with the Zuess and several of the other top brands, take a look at them and seriously consider those for your rifles. But one other product I'll bring up and mention is Benchmade really come out with something very, I guess, innovative on their part. Everybody's been familiar with their Infidel knife that they've had out for years, and they developed it. They developed it for Afghanistan. That's another reason they named it the Infidel. Fantastic knife, been around for a very long time. They're still making this in their line. They make it in 3 or 4 versions, but it is very expensive. You're almost at $500 retail, which puts it completely out of the realm for a lot of folks that want to spend that on a pocket knife. Totally understandable. It's a very expensive knife, but this one I've carried for years. It's just an excellent, excellent knife. Last year, they announced they were going to come out with a cheaper out-the-front knife, still backed by their full warranty, by their Life Sharp program. And what they came out with was the Shout Out. And this is the new Shout Out knife that they just come out with. It's much, much lighter. They've moved away from the aluminum frame, and they've gone into a poly frame on this. They've done a very nice steepling job up here on the front of the knife to give you a lot of almost sandpaper grit to the front of the knife. So holding that and having to stab into anything is absolutely fantastic. Then they made a very aggressive ambidextrous top release for the knife. And, I'm sure if you're not watching on TV or watching on YouTube, you can hear it. That's the knife. It has a very, very distinctive, solid click to it. To deploy the knife, it is very fast. I'm very impressed with it. I was a little concerned because it was so much cheaper than the Infidel. What was the quality going to be like? Right. They've done a really great job with this, and they're making it in several different configurations. This is their first offering of it with the Cerakoted blade on it. Then they also have put a glass break on the back of it, which is one of the features I really like with at least one of the knives that I carry during the day, is to have a glass break and a reversible pant clip. So just 2 screws comes out, and you can flip it around to the other side if you want to carry it. But look at the weight difference on these two.
Yeah, that's huge. For guys that are really concerned with weight, that are kind of junkies when it comes to what their gear weighs.
Yep.
This is a pleasure to carry. Would be a pleasure to carry.
Yep.
And I really like the Tonto style blade on there too. Is that the initial offering? Are they going to? I take it
right now they're only offering that in the Tonto blade design, which is one of my personal favorites anyway. I really like the Tonto blades. It's just a very robust blade for a lot of applications. And the neat thing is that they're offering this in at retail at $300.
Right.
So, and most shops, including ours, you can get it cheaper than that. There again, I can't advertise the pricing. They do not allow that with their dealership, but we have to mention it at retail. And then if we offer a discount right now, that's up to each individual shop. So yeah, keep in mind Benchmade, and they've got an entire line. I won't cover any more about their line right now. Maybe each week we'll add in one or two more of their knives to kind of show the new offerings, but we just started getting in the entire new lineup. So I think we've added like 65 knives, not all brand new offerings, but we've restocked the case. We've got at least 65 Benchmades in stock right now, which is pretty fantastic number to have setting in stock on them. So stop in and take a look at that, or see your local Benchmade dealer. They're a fantastic knife, or just check out their website. You can order direct off their website.
I only own one, and it was a Christmas present from you. But I've been carrying every day since I got it for 7 months, and I'm a believer.
Yeah,
it's definitely the most highest quality pocket knife I've ever had, or if you can call it a pocket knife. But it's good stuff.
You bet.
I mean, you can tell the difference when you're actually using it every day.
Yeah,
it stays sharper longer. They're quality.
Yep,
all the way.
Yep, wonderful. Well, folks, we're running short on time here, so I would like to just quickly mention a couple of our sponsors for this. One of our new sponsors, and it's one of our sister companies, is our Two Bear Academy. Two Bear Academy, we're offering training programs. We've been offering training programs since 2007. We've been doing training, but now Two Bear Academy is the new branded name for our training academy. And follow us on Facebook. Of course, there again, Two Bear Arms. We hope you follow us at the gun shop, Two Bear Arms. But then also Two Bear Academy has its own Facebook page, and that's where you're going to find out information about our latest classes. We're going to be posting classes again tomorrow, some additional classes. We just had a weekend of classes a couple weeks ago and did the ladies only classes, beginner handgun courses, and we'll be offering more of those. Tomorrow we'll be posting the dates for those upcoming classes, and then we'll also start offering our concealed carry courses, our everyday carry courses will be posted then also. So for great training, come see us. It all happens here on the property, live fire in classroom. We have a great classroom. It's air conditioned this time of year. That's important. Mm-hmm. Our classroom's air conditioned. It's pretty awesome. So one of our other great sponsors I want to mention is Jeffrey A. Smith Law Firm. Just tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jeffrey A. Smith Law Offices. He's located in Oskaloosa, Iowa. Yeah. And I've been practicing family law and general law practice for 30 years. Fantastic. So great supporter of the show, great supporter of the Second Amendment, competitive shooter, great all-around guy. So if you're in Iowa and the greater Iowa area and are in need of some law services, he's your man.
There you go. There you go. Fantastic. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up for today on this episode. We thank you guys for watching. And like we always say, keep your powder dry. Thanks a lot.